We are during the season of Lent, in a study through small groups and through series in sermons, focusing on racial issues, social justice issues. We started with a big communal Sunday school, for lack of a better word, when 170 plus of our leaders and members of adult small groups and Sunday schools met in the fellowship hall during donut hour. It was a great session to kick this off, except for the fact that we did not have donuts that day, and I caught it. But thank you for your understanding, and donuts shall continue to flow. Small price to pay for a very important lesson that we are continuing to learn throughout these weeks of Lent. As I said, Pastor Stephanie, Pastor Winter, and myself are supporting these studies through our sermons, and I want to, today in my sermon, get back to the basics, if you will. I'm going to talk about the call of a man that not just Christianity, but Judaism and Islam have in common, and that is, of course, Father Abraham. We're going to hear of his call, but we need to prepare to really hear his call. So join me responsively, if you will. We believe that there is no ultimate safe space in life. We believe that living on the edge keeps life exciting. We believe that yesterday serves only as teacher for tomorrow. Tomorrow holds God's plans, awaiting our discovery. We believe that we need to listen to God's voice just as Abram did. When we listen, the past becomes a memory, and the future becomes a vision.
Leave your land, your family, and your father's household for the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation and will bless you. I will make your name respected, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. Those who curse you, I will curse. All the families of the earth will be blessed because of you. Abram left just as the Lord told him, and Lot went with him. The word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God. A very small, but yet compact and powerful story right there. And that's where we usually start for sermons that have been told in all three of those religions. The dramatic call of a 75-year-old man to leave his rocking chair on the front porch and follow this mysterious voice off into an unknown future, into an indecipherable wilderness. Yet often we do not follow up what happened chapter after chapter, week and month and year after year after this call. We forget that he went into Egypt and lied about his wife because he was afraid he was going to get killed once the Egyptians knew that this beautiful woman was his wife. So he just said she's his sister. All the trauma and trouble that caused. And then he had a falling out with his nephew Lot, and they separated for a while. And who can forget the pain in the wilderness when he was just about to sacrifice his beloved son, Isaac? Wow. It's not the drama and the trumpet sounding from on high when you accept a call to discipleship, is it? And there's a reason that Jesus said, not just you shall be a peacemaker, but you shall be a persecuted peacemaker. Because everyone who dares accept that challenge will at some time feel utterly exhausted, persecuted, pained, such as when you might choose to do the right thing at work when it's the wrong thing for your career. Such as when in school you might choose to sit with the unpopular kid, knowing that your popularity meter is going to go down yourself. Such as when you are called to proclaim Black Lives Matter, or Blue Lives Matter, or All Lives Matter, and pay the price. Such as when you're called to stand up to a homophobe at work or at school. you pay the price. And at that time, you have a choice to do what Abraham did or not. Continue to go ahead and push through the pain and push through the frustration, or you do what Abraham did, and from time to time to time in that wilderness, you sit down. You sit down. There was a missionary in India who had the task of translating the New Testament into the dialect of this small village that he was ministering to. And he was having a difficult time with the word faith. There was just nothing, they didn't even have the word similar to trust in the vocabulary of this area. And as he was wrestling with this one day, a young man from the village, a boy from the village, comes in, and being deep in thought, the missionary pointed him over to a chair that was nearby. He said, "Sit down and I'll be with you in a moment." And he continued working, and he noticed that the boy wasn't sitting down. He was looking all around this chair. So he said again, "Go ahead, have a seat. I'll be with you." And yet the boy didn't. He kept looking. And finally, the missionary asked, "What's going on?" And the boy replied basically with one word that sort of put a light bulb above the missionary's head. He replied, "Can I give myself to this and know it will hold me up? Can I give myself to this? Can I put all my weight on this and know that it will hold me up?" And at that moment, the missionary discovered the word for faith. For faith is nothing more than giving yourself to God, trusting that God can hold you up, especially at those times when you're that persecuted peacemaker. The problem with social activism that's not balanced with a time of rest and reflection is that too often we get so caught up in doing right, which is a great thing to do, that we start alienating ourselves from the very people that we are witnessing to. And we start making a stereotype of them when we should be loving them. For we are to love our enemies, or we love all people. Being able to sit down just at that moment of when you are on edge and when you feel like you need to push forward, even through your pain and through your anger maybe, it's the time that you sit down and have the grace to know that your salvation is not based on your accepting the call of God in your life. Your salvation is based on you understanding that God loved you first before calling you. Actually, it's because God loved you that you're called. God loves you first. And that is what we need to hear from time to time, or we lose our base. A pastor I know had a crisis in his life. It was one of those times that it seemed like everything was piling up, one thing going wrong at the church after another or what have you, and he was just feeling frustrated down. And there was one moment in his meditation during a day that he had, during the morning, that he had the opportunity to sit and to cleanse his mind. For the first time in a long time, he just silenced all those different voices that he had. Silenced. And from the way he described it, from some well in my soul, I heard these words: "I have called you. You are mine. I am with you. Don't be afraid." And he rolled those words over and over. "I have called you. I am with you. You are mine. Don't be afraid. I have called you. I am with you. You are mine. Don't be afraid." And those words, which turned out to be from the 43rd chapter of Isaiah, just continued washing over him and refreshing and replenishing his soul. And those words weren't just for some preacher. Those words are for any Christian, especially worn out by trying to do good, worn out by trying to be that peacemaker, worn out by trying to make a statement. There comes a time to do what Abraham did and simply be. And then there's another time that's just as important as having the grace to sit down. And that is the time when you hear that voice once again. When Abraham, after he had rested and replenished, would hear that same voice that he heard from the porch, but yet with a different inflection, with a different direction. There comes a time when you're called then, replenished, to stand up with new strength and to do something daring. Daring with a capital D. The late Catholic priest and writer Henry Nouwen gave an example of this when he was talking with a couple of trapeze artists. When you're in the trapeze world, he said that he discovered that there are two people. There's the flyer and the catcher. The flyer is the one that continues to gain speed and momentum until just at the right moment, boom, let's go. The catcher is the one held by his knees over the bar that has who has his arms outstretched for the flyer. Nouwen was told that the main problem with the flyer is to overcome the instinct of trying to save himself or herself. Because the instinct is once you fly off that you want to, out of panic, want to reach out and do everything you can to make sure you get those arms caught. And in the process, you lose your balance, you lose your timing. What the flyer must do is at that moment that he or she releases, simply hold out your arms, trusting that at the right time, those other arms, those strong hands, will be there. The hardest thing for the Christian, I believe, is to, after having been bathed with that love of Christ, and you feel that solace, to get up and to know that you have to risk and that there will be a time when you have to let go, that you are called to let go. Let go perhaps of those things that keep you safe and secure. Your identity, your popularity, your money, your time. Let go of your pride and your vanity, whatever it might be. There's a time in which if you are called to follow the Christ who said, take up your cross, then it is that time that you get up and you follow that call into some risky area. And I believe the riskiest area we will ever do, and the one common riskiest area we can ever participate in individually, is that of getting out of our comfort zone with people who act like us and think like us and live like us. We are called to release ourselves, let go, and discover God in people who have different skin color, in people who have a different place of worship, people who have a different lifestyle or orientation, people who have a different political affiliation. We are called to have that great Christian virtue of humility, to know that we are always called to connect and to let our minds be open to the amazing justice and compassion of our God in people other than ourselves. We worship God best when we are with people whose faces are not like ours. And that's our call. And it is risky. And yet, that is the universal call that we have to do. Because we wouldn't be here if it weren't our ancestors in 1800 who did that very same thing. We have to do that individually, and God will be calling each of us out of our individual chairs to be able in our work or in our school or in our place of recreation to do just that, to reach out to those unlike and to connect. And I might add that we are called to do that as a church. I am very appreciative of the the focus that we have in so many ways, from sandwiches for the homeless to participating in Urban Forum and Kingdom House to those blue T-shirts we have that witness to the mission of the church. So proud that we are doing just that, to be able to, as a corporate community, saying it is important to us. One of the visions that we are studying and praying over as to whether this is a direction that God is calling us to do is to explore the possibility of being a presence for Christ in the Cherokee Street area, several miles from here. It's a place where you will find people who are not necessarily fitting in to the walls of this church, a culturally diverse, a younger area, and yet there is a call to explore, can we have a small group meeting there? Whatever it might look like. Don't know. Bible study, a social group, fellowship, a discussion group, worship, who knows? But this we do know. We are called to be beyond the walls of this church, because it's not appropriate for us to think that, oh, well, look, we're a church on a hill, let people come to us. No. We go to where there is a need. And Cherokee Street is one of the many visions that this church has had and continues to have of where can we be a witness to the justice and the compassion of Jesus of Nazareth. Because individuals or a church that stays in the chair will grow unhealthy. So friends, where are you in your Lenten journey? Are you tired and worn out from doing good? Take a break. Sit down. Have you sat down? Where is God calling you, a replenished soul, to give yourself out, following the Christ who calls you to do just that? Mark you this day where you are. But regardless of whether you're flying on the trapeze, about to let go, or you have flopped down in a chair, remember the words of the Lord. I have called you. You are mine. I am with you. Don't be afraid.